Identifying right motivation is important, but then also identifying right business model. So deeper the motivation, higher the margin is gonna be. That's the first lens I apply.
What are certain things that will we continue to do?
So competition for power, competition for status, loss aversion, hope for a better future. We are not, जिंदगी ना मिलेगी दोबारा कि जा तू यूरोप की ट्रिप पे जा तेरे को कुछ मिल जाएगा. Identifying a fundamental need and then transferring into a profitable business, those are two different problems. People love games, but one business model works really, really well in India, pay to play, which we are doing, but the free to play ads and in-app purchases doesn't work.
When we say कि चाइना में ऐसा हुआ है या यूएस में ऐसा हुआ है तो इंडिया में भी ऐसा होगा, how do we know this hypothesis is correct?
Let's say dating. It won't be very difficult in US for even a female lawyer to date a worker in McD. I don't know India में possible है. The mindset you need to have is to understand what causes what.
Are you in the business of making things fun or removing boredom from life of people?
We are not just born to, 9 से 5 काम करो आके सो जाओ. Imagining a world where literature doesn't exist. It really pushes me to think deeper about human mind.
Have you seen consumer behavior changing in the past decade?
Indians are now becoming way more individualistic. A lot of people my age don't spend that much time thinking about things.
How do you make yourself deserving enough for someone to take bet on you in your early 20s?
लोग वेट करते हैं कि मेरे को जूते दोगे तब भागूंगा. कुछ लोग इतना अच्छा भागते हैं कि जूते देने वालों की लाइन लग जाती है. See, great companies and great founders generally have a very unique insight जिसके ऊपर वो build कर रहे होते हैं.
What is going to be exponential?
The no-brainer is AI.
Gaming कैसे दिखेगा with AI? Hi everyone, I'm your host Shivank and we are part of the 01 network by Zerodha. Together, we intend to bring you insights from the top thinkers in the field of entrepreneurship, technology and investing. यार आज हम जा रहे हैं Zupee के फाउंडर के साथ पॉडकास्ट करने and he's a very interesting founder. His name is Dilsher. And the interesting part about this is they've built a gaming company in India which was a completely unserved market. Zupee has created a category around casual gaming, which is normal games like Sapsidi, Ludo. And the most innovative part is कि इंडिया में you can't play game of chance for cash. You can only play game of skill for cash. So for example, if you and me are tossing a coin and betting कि जिसका head जाएगा वो पैसे जीतेगा, because it's a game of chance, we can't do that. It's illegal. But we can play game of chess for cash because it's game of skill. इन्होंने traditional Ludo को लिया, which we all know कि it's a game of chance. और उसमें statistical test करके they created a newer version to propose it like a game of skill and game of chance both. And that's the interesting innovation that these people have done. And they call themselves a neuroscience company rather than a gaming company. I'm very excited to meet them. Can you help me understand the profit pool approach also? Because let's say if there is a possibility that I am passionate about something which will end up into an unmeaningful business from a purely business economical sense, there is no profit pool. There is all dirt there. So on this layer of being brutally honest about your desire and what you want to build, because the journey is hard, can we put another thesis of the profit pool approach?
Sure. I'll tell you the way I approach everything with understanding human motivations. Like basically stronger the desire, higher the margin is gonna be, higher the profit gonna be. That's how I think. So one of the highest monetizable motivation is status. And that again, I can give you another 30-minute download on that, why it is one of the most fundamental needs on there. Why is it one of the most fundamental need? So any case, now I end up seeing कि बिजनेस कर क्या रहा है, किस डिजायर के लिए सॉल्व कर रहा है, क्या होप के लिए कर रहा है, कोई लॉस एवर्जन के लिए कर रहा है, कोई स्टेटस के लिए कर रहा है, कोई कनेक्शन के लिए कर रहा है. So deeper the motivation, higher the margin is gonna be. So that's the first lens I apply. Now, a more sharper answer on numbers, I always like to think what is something that people are already paying for. So TAM movement is way easier than creating new TAM. And it's about identifying what people are doing,
Already paying.
have done, and they will continue to do, and what are those avenues in which they are already paying. How are they paying? Now there might be a lot of form factors, so there can be a form factor change, or you can just make that behavior more efficient. Let's take an example. लोग cabs तो book कर ही रहे थे, तो Uber is more of a just increasing efficiency,
Delta four
increasing ease of it. But if you, let's say, look at WhatsApp or Instagram, आप उससे 2 साल पहले की रिपोर्ट्स पढ़ लो BCG McKinsey की, no one is gonna predict कि ये आने वाला है. That to me, again, it's a fundamental need that exists, on which you look at what new technological innovations are coming out, where it is evolving, like let's say web to mobile हो रहा है, that macro trend is, and what it's gonna look like 5 years out. So again, प्रॉफिट पूल का बड़ा ही बेसिक फंड है, क्या डिजायर बहुत स्ट्रांग है जो आप सॉल्व कर रहे हो, एंड उस पर ऑलरेडी कितना पीपल आर स्पेंडिंग, ऑफलाइन, ऑनलाइन, अंडरग्राउंड, ओवरग्राउंड, कैसे भी वो बिहेवियर पे मोनेटाइजेशन कितने भी अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड वे में हो रहा है. नाउ इट्स अ न्यू, कैन यू ट्रांसफॉर्म इट टू न्यू फॉर्म वेक्टर्स.
जो स्टेटस वाला एग्जांपल था वो शायद आपने एमबी वाले पॉडकास्ट में बताया था कि हमको रिप्रोडक्शन करना है. रिप्रोडक्शन करने के लिए वी हैव टू फाइंड बेस्ट मेट्स, सो वी हैव टू inspire them, and that's why the status achieving ability of or in thing comes to human. But help me understand, when you say ki this is the profit pool approach, right? How do you know what are certain things that will be continue to do, because the world is changing so fast? How do we know what human behavior will not change?
I think that's what I was saying. Ki if you understand our genetic software, how it works, what are various needs, the needs don't change. Like let's say something. Let me take an example on top of my head. Let's say dating. Dating is not gonna change. Even competition for mates is never gonna go away. Even if Musk sets up a colony on Mars, is that going away? It's never gonna go away. So competition for power, competition for status, loss aversion, hope for a better future. All these motivations are very, very fundamental. They're not gonna go away. The form factors might change.
Let's say dating as an example. Dating is not going to go away. There are already many ways, many circuits, which many companies, many corporates have already created that. There is huge competition. It's a red ocean thing. And there is a strategy कि हमको red ocean में नहीं जाना चाहिए. So if you were supposed to build something in dating, how would you do that? And this is very interesting. I'm choosing this example because I was talking to a head of a very big company, and उन्होंने मुझे एक insight दिया कि dating में 80% अगर 100 लोग हैं, 80% मेल और 20% भी फीमेल होती है. So that to me was like crazy. और बोला बाकी ऐप पे तो 90% का रेशियो है, 9:1 का रेशियो है. So that's where the people.
Okay, I'll tell you how I will approach it. I will look at what are the current dating products out there, what are they trying to solve, उस सब में problems क्या है. Like जो आप बोल रहे हो कि 80-20 या 90-10 ratio है, उसका reason क्या है, right? Is it security? Is it safety? Is it cultural conditioning of India? Is it in any case women can have access to better partners? So I'll first lay it down. It's easy to say dating काम नहीं कर रहा, but it's really important to understand काम क्यों नहीं कर रहा है, and किन societies और cultures में काम कर रहा है. Like जैसे I don't know, I'll make an example. Like it won't be very difficult in US for even a female lawyer to date a McD worker in McD, McDonald's. I don't know India में possible है. So I think that's what it means going into first principle and understanding. कि अब अगर like again that's a very broad thing to say. Culture, there are cultural differences. Now what does that mean, right? And but at the same time, it's a fundamental need. Companionship is a fundamental need. It's not like in India, men, women don't date. They would be dating. Maybe their way of finding a partner will be very different. So understanding that, then building on top of that. That's how I will approach.
Let's take the fundamental need to travel. Do you think traveling is a fundamental need?
I don't think so. I think it's deeper. I'll say exploration might be a fundamental need, and now exploration might have different form factors. So, understanding that, then building on top of that. That's how I will approach.
Let's take the fundamental need to travel. Do you think traveling is a fundamental need?
I don't think so. I think it's deeper. I'll say exploration might be a fundamental need, and now exploration might have different form factors. See, traveling, I think, again, so there are two big things that happen in, I think, 19th and 20th century, two ideology of thought. One is Romanticism and second is Consumerism. Romanticism meant like your feelings are the ultimate authority, and Consumerism married it really well, that if you're feeling shitty, it's your fault. You're not traveling enough, you're not consuming enough, you're not, जिंदगी ना मिलेगी दोबारा कि जा तू यूरोप की ट्रिप पे जा, तेरे को कुछ मिल जाएगा. And then how cultures, advertisements build on that happy couples go on trips, etc., etc. So a lot of it are trained behaviors that get trained over time. So I will say, मेरे हिसाब से exploration is a fundamental need. Traveling is one of the form factors that has been created by the culture.
And when you mean कि you will try to find something जहाँ पर पहले से ही लोग कोई ना कोई पैसा दे रहे हैं, because it's hard to create a category and create a new behavior, right? So ऐसे अगर आप सोचते हैं, so we won't be able to create a business like Zomato or a WhatsApp.
No, why do you say that?
The reason is because we will think कि अभी तक तो WhatsApp के लिए कोई पैसे दे ही नहीं रहा है. So there is no inherent need. It's a very latent need, right?
No, there are two different things. कि WhatsApp के लिए कोई पैसे नहीं दे रहा है versus if you look at market cap of WhatsApp is, I don't know, $200 billion or $250 billion. I'll price it at that. So there is value created. Now, the kind of data, kind of network effects you enjoy there, that has a lot of value. You're not just monetizing it. Doesn't mean it doesn't have value.
Let's say quick commerce. So quick commerce it's short circuited the way of actually getting something, right? Earlier there was a lot of skepticism कि मुझे 10 मिनट में तो कुछ चीज चाहिए ही नहीं है. उस वे में how do you think that approach will work or not? Because earlier 10 मिनट में कुछ भी नहीं आता था, but किसी ने सोचा कि मैं 10 मिनट में लाके दूंगा.
So I think it's a very, very powerful. Instant gratification is a big human motivation, and they are appealing on that. And if you look at the cohorts, they are like phenomenal. Now that's what business comes in, right? Business has two parts. One is the lifetime value you can create. Second is the CAC, which is the cost of acquisition. So both sides of the equations have to fit in well for it to work out at scale, right? And LTV is not revenue. It's revenue minus all the expenses. That means your operational costs, cashbacks, etc., etc. So having a fundamental need, identifying a fundamental need, and then transferring into a profitable business, those are two different problems.
Give me an example of having a fundamental need, but it won't ever convert into a long-term profitable business.
I think it will depend on the business model. Like, I don't know, like we can take example of gaming. Gaming is a very, very fundamental need. Okay, gaming is not a fundamental need. Humans have this need to be engaged.
Right.
Sitting idle is the hardest thing for humans to do because we are very action oriented, and evolution has wired us in such a way. Our ancestors who were not that action oriented, जो मतलब खा के पेट के नीचे सो गए थे, उनके जीन्स उतने ज़्यादा propagate नहीं हुए. So now people love games, but and that's where business model question comes in, do you do ads, in-app purchases, or you do pay to play? Both are games, but one business model works really, really well in India, pay to play, which we are doing, but the free to play ads and in-app purchases doesn't work. अब उसको भी डीप में जाके समझना पड़ता है कि why is it not working, will it never work, why are ad rates low? Ad rates are low because in any poor GDP per capita country or lower GDP per capita country, there are lots of you, retention is not gonna be worth a lot of dollars. And then why do IAPs not work? Why do Indians don't like subscription? So you have to build an entire thesis on that, and then you marry it with what are the macro trends. Is that behavior gonna change? What are the green shoots? What happens in a country when their per capita income starts increasing, right? Then you study various countries in which has happened. Let's say China में ये boom आया था. Then what kind of new behaviors get formed? You marry all of that, then you have a thesis कि which business model is right to harvest right now. What are those things which is on they're green shoots, but it is gonna take some time to play. So identifying right motivation is important, but then also identifying right business model on it is important.
So when we have this thesis, I also try to find कि चाइना में क्या क्या चीजें हुई हैं, and that has a high possibility of playing out in India also. But sometime वहाँ पर भी चाइना या यूएस, बट वहाँ पर भी कुछ कुछ शॉर्ट सर्किट होता है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल यूएस में लोग के पास पहले लैपटॉप आया था, फिर फोन आया था. इंडिया में डायरेक्टली फोन आया. जैसे यूपीआई का एग्जांपल, उन्होंने कभी भी यूपीआई नहीं देखा, लेकिन हमने डायरेक्ट यूपीआई देखा. ऐसे बहुत सारी चीजें. I don't have answer. I really want to understand. When we say कि चाइना में ऐसा हुआ है या यूएस में ऐसा हुआ है, तो इंडिया में भी ऐसा होगा. How do we know this hypothesis is correct?
I don't think that's the right way to say कि वहाँ ऐसा हुआ तो यहाँ भी ऐसा होगा.
Right.
We have to think probabilistically.
How do you think that?
See, anything that happens, it's like a mathematical equation in my head. You know, ax1 plus bx2 plus cx3 plus dx4, etc., etc. So what happens? Now, something that happens, it happens because an outcome of lot of factors interacting, right? So US will have different cultural dynamics, economic dynamics, societal, बहुत सारे अलग factors हैं. So that's what I see. There are no easy answers on these things. यार ये हुआ या नहीं हुआ. The mindset you need to have is to understand what causes what, right? You know, what all comes together to cause what. And then if you understand that equation, then you look at it, let's say our context, you know, let's say ये variable की weightage कितनी होनी चाहिए, ये variable यहाँ में भी matter ही नहीं करता, इस पे 3 variables और add करने पड़ेंगे. So it's important to understand those things because it helps you understand the equations that are causing. If you understand the equation, you understand the variables, you understand the weightages. Now you can superimpose in our context and subtract, add variables, change weightages basis our context.
So what are you in the business of? Are you in the business of making things fun, or are you in the business of removing boredom from life of people? What are you in the business of?
I think we made a thesis earlier that world needs both Einsteins and Beethovens. Basically, we are not just born to, you know, 9 से 5 काम करो आके सो जाओ. Imagining a world where literature doesn't exist, fiction doesn't exist, games don't exist, I think it will be a very, very depressing world. So I think it's both. So you need food, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need the fundamental things also, but at the same time there is also a component of quality of life. You know, you need entertainment, you need engagement, you need connection, all those things. So I don't know, have been more attracted always to this aspect of problem solving, like just a very, very rudimentary framework. We say vitamins and pain.
Yes.
I've been always more attracted towards building vitamins.
Why?
I think it really pushes me to think deeper about human mind. And I don't know, it's always been a fascination of mine.
But don't you think painkillers are more closer to fundamental needs of humans?
Why do you say that?
Painkiller is something that I really, really want to do. But I'm not able to find solution.
I think both appeal to the needs, but I think the truths are bit hidden more when it comes to vitamins.
To read behind the lines. Huh?
Yeah, so I think it allows and pushes you to think deeper. It's like कि I don't know, मेरे को कैब चाहिए, बिल्कुल चाहिए, मेरे को सबसे जल्दी कैब चाहिए. I get it, and I think it's not about this is better or that is better. It is what excites you more, or versus, you know, how AI can solve a problem of companionship. That to me is more meta question to answer, and that, I don't know, personally excites me more.
Got it. पहले वाले क्वेश्चन पे आते हैं. What's the core fundamental reason of someone being motivated and dismotivated?
I think again it's gonna be multivariate thing.
Okay.
Like I think it goes back to the framework, genetic wiring, genes predisposed don't predetermine, but they're genes for everything, for excitement, for courage, all of those things. And you marry that. So how do genes manifest? Like you and me might have the same genes, but they might never
express
themselves unless they have been put in a certain conditions.
Right.
So I think if you marry these two things, मेरे हिसाब से मोटा मोटी आंसर वही आना है, genetic wiring and what were the conditions where you were growing up and the conditions in which you find yourself.
एक नॉर्मल परसेप्शन जो मेरे दिमाग में बना था कि जिसके पास स्केर्सिटी ऑफ रिसोर्सेज होती है उसको लाइफ में आग लगी रहती है कि कुछ बड़ा करना है और वो निकल के करता है. This was my fundamental thesis in life. But when I met a lot of people जिनके पास रिसोर्स की scarcity थी, there were two types of people. जिनमें सच में आग लगी हुई थी और जिन्होंने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया था कि बस अब यही लाइफ है और क्या ही कर सकते. So दोनों का background is same, but still their motivations are different.
Yeah.
What causes that?
I think it's the same thing, you know, like you and me can hear the same sentence, but the same sentence can have a very different impact on us. So what is that an outcome of? That is an outcome of our wiring. That's how I put it. Basically, and what do you mean by wiring? It's like, I think mainly ज़्यादा surprising नहीं है because it's quite obvious कि the same stimulus can cause very different response, and it comes down to the wiring. And now again, when I say wiring, it's not just the genetic wiring, but it's also the early years of life. What caused you hurt, what excited you, what motivated you, and it's a neural net, like I keep saying.
Right.
कि of course आपका और मेरा neural net में fundamental differences भी हो सकते हैं. On top of that, ये किस data पे train हुआ है, that itself can be a very big factor. So the same, if you put in my neural net a response of X, the question of X, my answer could be Y. For you, it could be Z. So that's how it will be.
Help me understand, with all your understanding, a person who is fat, what stops him to go to a gym?
कि I think एक तो सबसे बड़ा हो जाता है कि effort to reward. So basically, whenever you find your desired state is very far away, and it will take a lot of effort to get there, because we are wired for instant gratification. So मेरे हिसाब से, in any case, doing something, you have just taken an extreme example. Anything that has delayed gratification is very hard. So first of all, I think पहली चीज ये है. Then I think somewhere, now more philosophically speaking, there is a big fear of failing. So trying something and then finding out you were not able to do it can cause a lot of pain. So I think because of that, a lot of people never end up trying something. So because at least mentally they will have an excuse कि यार हमने अपना 100% नहीं दिया था. So basis that, it's easier to live with yourself knowing you had that excuse versus you gave it and then you failed.
Delay आपकी life में, do you short circuit gratification sometime?
I think all the time.
What does it take to not delay gratification?
I think understanding the second order effects, third order effects of doing it.
Deeply.
Yes. And it's not like a good thing or a bad thing to chase instant gratification. Let's say you have a problem, you would like to solve it ASAP, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's about understanding again what causes what. If I solve it this way, what would be the second order, third order effects of that? Am I okay with that? But if, let's say, I solve it in a more structured way, and which will take a lot of time. So what are the trade-offs? What are the second, third order effects of that? So, and it's easy to say, but very hard to practice because it's like a lot of processing and it's hard. So most of the times, I think we are able to do a good job of that.
Have you seen consumer behavior or human behavior changing in the past decade?
I think ये change होता ही है. Like lot of things. I don't know. I think you can look at in Indian societies, Indian kids. I don't know. मुझे लगता है हमारे में भी generation gap है. So how they, even if like the smallest thing, I think Indians are now becoming way more individualistic. We were very family oriented, and as the culture seeps in, you know, now we are this one big global society. Even भले US का बच्चा है, India का बच्चा है, most of them are watching the same content. They are following the same people. So basically, again, the stimulus on which they are getting trained on is getting very, very similar. So of course, due to that, you see a lot of ways in which how, I don't know, a 14-year-old or 16-year-old will behave today versus, I don't know, 7-8 years will be very, very different.
Are you more mature than your age? Are you precautious?
I don't think I wanna say that. I think I just see a lot of people my age don't spend that much time thinking about things. So I think, see, there is, of course, there is clarity that basic how that saying goes कि age के साथ wisdom आता है. Of course, because there are a lot of experiences, right? Due to which you are able to reflect and see and make more sense of that. But if you start doing it at an early age, your muscle can get developed, which can happen later also. So that's why I say I think perhaps I'm a bit old for my age.
If you're mistakenly seeking more wisdomful person, what
Mhm.
were recent? The context is I am 23
Hmm.
and I want to spend time this decade
Hmm.
in the best form of experiences that I can have,
Mhm.
which can give me maximum learning, maximum wisdom, maximum exposure.
Mhm.
So for you, what were those experiences?
I think it will be reading for sure. See, it's exposure to ideas basically. Now that can happen in multiple ways. You can travel and meet people. You can read about it. You can hang out with different people, etc., etc. But I think it's exposure to ideas that, again, it comes back to neural net ka example. The more you train it to more diverse data, more sharper, comprehensive predictions it's able to do. For different people, it could be different thing. For me, it's reading.
Any other form of non-reading experience that you had?
I think
Because I know कि आप लोगों को ज्वाइन करने से पहले बुक्स भी भेजते हो कि यार ये पढ़ के आना. There is a series, Awakening the Mind, वो आप भेजते हो. तो reading, it's not shocking for me. But what are non-reading experience that you had in your 20s that actually shaped you?
I think I've been building Zupees since 2018. Then I was 22 years old. So building a company itself exposes you to so many experiences, near-death moments of the startup, conflicts, hiring, business pressures, etc., etc. I think, and because as a founder, you in any case have to interact with a lot of people. You travel, you meet various people, Indian investors, foreign investors, Indian founders, foreign founders, all of that. I think that definitely would have played a role.
So building a company in your 20s exposes you to a lot of experiences.
Yes, 100%.
What was the craziest form of experience? Was Zupee going to near that? And I'm also very excited about how you started at 22 and in a very different model. So what I remember is you started with Smile, right? And that was a venture studio, some kind of startup. I'm not aware about that.
Yeah.
How did you end up meeting them, and how different was it from actually raising money from angels? Because this is something nobody can teach us. You're a unique example of building a company in your early 20s with a venture studio.
Got it. See, honestly, I didn't know that much at that time. So was very hungry to build something big. And I was like, कि capital लाते हैं कहीं से, so we'll go deep and build it. It was more, now in hindsight, it can be easy to say, oh, see, that was a great call, right choice of partners, etc. But at that time, it was chance से भी capital मिल जाए, लेके build करना चालू करते हैं. I think it's that, but yeah, Smile has been a great partner. They were almost co-partners in those early days because मेरे को कुछ नहीं आता था. I was straight out of college. I had no experience, exposure. So whatever I was able to do, I was really able to learn a lot from Smile guys.
How did you end up meeting Harish sir for the first time? I'm very curious to know.
I think we had couple of offers. Standard यार कुछ वो वही होता है कि early stage you are meeting a lot of people. We met Smile. We met Manish and Tramit, really liked them, and then met Harish, really liked them. So it's like कि ठीक लग रहा है, start करते हैं. And there was another offer, but for that we had to move to Mumbai. But I've been north में all my life. I was like कि already बहुत changes आ रहे हैं, कोई बड़ा change नहीं लाते life में. And I decided कि गुड़गांव में रुकते हैं.
When I meet a lot of founders and when I see the journey over the years, I find one interesting pebble that the percentage of equity that you hold at the last moment of time is it's plummeted like anything. And I also know the reason ki yaar, they say ki make the pie bigger so that the smaller percentage is also bigger. But as a founder, because this is something that as a young person wants to, an aspiring builder, I think a lot about, right? Would you optimize? What were certain ways you think now that you could have optimized your percentage or your equity size?
Yeah, honestly, मैं देखता नहीं हूँ उसे. And this is a very personal thing.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is right or wrong or every founder should know what their DNA is. If I have to do it all over again, the only thing I will optimize for is probability of success.
How do you optimize for that?
I think it comes down to choice of partners, right? कि मैं start कर रहा हूँ. What, like let's say you are a young founder starting today. Let's say you partner with me versus let's say you partner with any VC. There is a big difference. I'm an operator. मैंने हाथ से build किया हुआ है, right? So the kind of exposure and help you can get from me, because I have been through that journey. I've done fundraisers myself. I built teams myself. I have scaled marketing myself. I built tech teams myself. I've set up the entire org myself. So my exposure for sure, at least that's how I think, will increase your probability of succeeding way more than any VC. I'm not saying this is the only way.
Right.
So at least my thinking has always been, I'll work with someone jiska visceral experience hai. So there is intellectual experience and then there is a visceral experience. So because it's like swimming sikha nahi sakte aap pani ke bahar khade hoke. So to me, working with builders, इन्होंने अपने हाथ से किया हुआ है, that to me increases my probability of success a lot more. Of course, there are various dimensions. I think value system overlap is very important. Chemistry is very important. So a lot of these things come together. Then I think and बाकी खुद में confidence है.
दो सवाल जो आपने बोला, value system और culture. You won't know this until and unless you are in the bed with your partner, right? Number one. So how do you know at the start of a relationship that my values and systems and culture will match with my potential partner? Number one.
यार इसका कोई short circuit नहीं है other than spending time with people and in various settings. So when their guard is up, when their guard is down, and doing again, past is a great predictor of future. So meeting various people जिन्होंने उनके साथ लंबी stint की है, again I think it's again that truth seeking nature कि like ref checks is one of the misused tools. उसमें क्या होता है, हाँ कॉल करके सर बता दो क्या है. I think even deriving answers from that is a skill, right?
Give me a specific example of that.
Let's say I'm hiring a person from your company. Most of the times I see ref checks are done as a tick in the box कि तुम्हारा मन बन जाता है, and then you just
कि अब करना ही इस बच्चे को hire
it's
ऐसे
confirmation bias most of the times कि then humans are so good at that, hearing what they want to hear. So I like to reverse the process. Before even meeting, I like to do ref checks.
How do you do that?
मतलब how do I do that?
मिलने से पहले ही. Okay, got it.
Let's
So
say
change the process.
exactly.
तो कि confirmation bias नहीं आए.
And exactly then I know कि जब मेरी conversations में मेरे को dig करना है तो किन 2-3 specific areas पे dig करना है. And that goes for senior hiring etc as well. Like you are hiring senior executives. I think Airbnb के CEO का ही था podcast you should hear, very good on hiring branches की, कि they are senior executives are really good at presenting themselves in interviews, and you can have lot of intellectual arrogance but नहीं पता चलेगा. So to me it's about flipping the process. 80-90% of the job should be done even before you meet the person, so that you can spend that time just narrowing down on 2-3 things.
Second thing जो आपने narrowing the guard बोला था, this is a problem that I face. So my job is to really understand and get the insights. But the problem is that 95% of the people, for them, camera becomes a threatening environment. So as soon as they know that the third person is watching, that the camera is recording, they put a flap. And I'm believing the same thing happens with a founder when he's interviewing some senior leadership. He's so good in communication. He's so good in the human tactics and personification and something that he or she is going to put the best foot forward. So in that setting, as a founder, when you have to understand a person who's putting his best foot forward, or as a great interviewer, or as an aspiring interviewer who wants to get real insights in front of a camera, unthreatening environment, how do you solve this problem?
Let's say I would have done so many interviews by now, and bunch of times I would have made mistakes also. So all that context and first-hand experience 100% sharpens your judgment. But let's say I'm starting afresh and I don't have that. So first, principally, again, I will spend a lot more time in ref checks before even I meet you. Various diverse persons. One of the things I've learned is na ki converge hota hai if you do it the right way. So in any company, if you ask their investors who the best person in the company is, in any company you ask the senior leadership best banda kaun hai, in any company you ask founder, in any company you ask juniors, generally converge हो रहा होता है. जो really outstanding लोग होते हैं सबको पता होता है कि दो outstanding है पूरे ecosystem में. So it's so many these insights we have got. Like one of the things we have seen is people having a long stint and who have been rapidly promoted internally. Generally is a very good signal, right? So I think इस तरीके से बहुत सारे subtle signals you start picking up, and then obviously trying to it's about triangulating and convergence. So basically सुन रहे हैं similar चीजें converge हो रही हैं सुनने के बाद.
Multiple उससे, so you align on like.
Yeah, and then of course post that, I think one of the ways to really understand someone is really keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. So let's say even easy example, let's say you worked on something. I want to understand कि आपने कितना deep काम किया उस पे. I'll keep going deeper, deeper, deeper. And आधे घंटे में पता चल जाता है कि how much derivation of what happened was done by you, or you were told, or it was a hybrid or something else. Because जो खुद से करता है उसके पास much deeper insights होती हैं of how it happened, and much more context होता है कि how it didn't work or it couldn't have worked.
As a 22-year-old, so there are two interesting cases. You started a group, an investor bet on you, right? Same thing happened with Adit from Zepto, right? How do you make yourself deserving enough for someone to take bet on you at an early age? How you made yourself deserving enough to be trusted? And what did they look at you? Can you answer this from hindsight?
लोग वेट करते हैं कि मेरे को जूते दोगे तब भागूंगा. कुछ लोग इतना अच्छा भागते हैं कि जूते देने वालों की लाइन लग जाती है. So I think it goes the same way. Like let's say you are coming to me, so and I have to take a bet on you. I will look at how deep you have gone in the segment. What are those very non-intuitive insights you have about the segment, and कहाँ से आ रहा है, क्यों आ रहा है, कितना deep गए हो आप, and on top of that, if you have any early traction, etc., etc. So at least in our case, even at whatever seed stage, we had traction.
Because of the quizzes business?
Yes.
हाँ.
So वो तो मतलब nothing beats it. Data is the ultimate truth. If I'm able to show you कि I don't know 50,000 monthly users and look at their cohorts, look at these metrics, then तो बहुत easy हो जाता है. And let's say if you don't have the data, then I'm solely gonna judge you on how deep you've gone about the segment. Do you have some very unique insight which is hard to replicate? See, great companies and great founders generally have a very unique insight जिसके ऊपर वो build कर रहे होते हैं, and which is hard to replicate.
Can you tell me, from the process of being a good company to a great company, what's the main fundamental core, deepest insight that you have about the space, about the industry, about the real money gaming, about human behavior that you have?
I think the way I think about this is like it's easier to do. Let's say you are fascinated about building an education, right? Like I'll tell you the way I do it. I'll study everything, and I have done that. I have also been fascinated with education, so I started studying the 4th, 5th BC से लोग कैसे educate किया जा रहा है. I'll go that deep, and I will understand कि earlier educational systems क्या थे, वो कैसे evolve हुए हैं, वो क्या problem solve करने के लिए evolve हुए हैं, and where are we today? आज क्या सही काम कर रहा है, क्या सही नहीं काम कर रहा है, and where all this new disruption is happening, let's say through AI, to even what are the skills that are going to matter in the next whatever 10 years, 20 years. So now a founder comes to me with that deep of a work and that unique of a POV, then I'll take a bet. My approach is always कि बहुत सारे लोग डिबेट करते हैं, नो टाइम इम्पोर्टेंट है, फाउंडर इम्पोर्टेंट है, बिजनेस मॉडल इम्पोर्टेंट है. Of course तीनों मिल जाए तो nothing like it, but most of the times you have to pick. You are in situations where you have to pick two. My thing is, and this is just personal thesis, it's time and founder. great founders working in the right time, business model ढूंढ लेते हैं.
Figure out हो जाता है.
पानी रास्ता ढूंढ लेता है. So that's why early stages is one of the hardest form of investing because there's no data.
And because you're building in India, boss, do you have any insights about what is going to be exponential by, let's say, 2035, 40? That anybody can start thinking along those lines, because in India this is going to go big. What is your thesis about that? Do you have any things that observations about the country?
Yeah, I think the biggest one to keep an eye on will be what happens when per capita income starts booming up. So premiumization is one thesis. Every founder, even if you're building today, you should exactly know what it means, how it will impact. अभी offshoots क्या दिख रहे हैं, किस तरीके से खेलना है space में. The second thing of the no-brainer is AI. How AI is gonna change all the segments, right? Every segment. मेरे हिसाब से, if you're not going really deep into that, तो मतलब binary risk ले रहे हो आप. I think these 2-3 things, these are the meta things. इसके ऊपर फिर once you start understanding this, then you can start making thesis on कि food कैसा दिखेगा, mobility कैसा दिखेगा, or let's say I don't know, investing कैसा दिखेगा, lending कैसा दिखेगा. So if you understand the fundamentals, then it's much more easier to sit back and think कि ये sector कैसा दिखने वाला है.
Gaming कैसा दिखेगा with AI 10 years down the line?
Yeah, that's something which we are debating a lot. So I think one of the no-brainer things is कि basically बहुत सारे, like this itself can be a 2-hour episode.
थोड़ा सा interesting
कि gaming कैसा दिखेगा. So one of the no-brainer things is कि cost of production and time to production will tend to zero. That means true creativity democratization.
which means low barrier to entry.
हाँ जी.
Which means low barrier to entry.
Very low barrier to entry, and that means creativity will be the only thing that will be remaining. जैसे वो डिबेट होता है ना कि इंजीनियर सबसे ज़्यादा जरूरी है, प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर जरूरी है, डिज़ाइनर है, तीनों को लगता है वो है, बट one will be able to do the job of all three, right? The same with director, actor, and
Producer, whatever,
screenwriter, right? So what happens in such a time कि जब content इतना ज़्यादा producer है, तो something around curation will have to be done, right? That's one very interesting dimension. Then even like, what does gaming look like? What will next Pixar look like? I think it will be something, and we have a strong thesis on that. It will be something on the interaction of movies and games. So basically interactive movies or interactive games. Like content to no-brainer है, passive content तो exist नहीं करना चाहिए. All content should be interactive. In any case, जो भी reports आती है ना कि gaming में सबसे ज़्यादा revenue बन रहा है, time बन रहा है, वो shift already हो रहा है. So crazy level of personalization. Even a single game, it could look very, very different for you, very, very different for me. So many nuances, man.
Interactive content is game?
Black Mirror की एक movie है Bandersnatch.
Okay.
Which is like कि basically, so there's a movie, उस देखना काफी cool है. Between they stop and they give you 2 options. So there's branching between storylines. कि 2 option आएंगे, ये करूँगा तो क्या करूँगा.
So that's personalization.
But that's the thing. For them to create a 2-hour का movie, they have to shoot for 8 hours.
Crazy.
तो but AI के रहते हुए तो कुछ करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. So I think that to me is a no-brainer.
Also, this is an interesting observation. जितनी भी second time founders आप देख रहे हो, let's say Kunal, earlier free charge which was a mass brand, but now trade top 0.1% of the country, the credit card user. I can think of 3-4 different people जो भी second time शुरू कर रहे हैं, they are playing this bet off, but you are completely opposite to this because of the target audience segment. So for example, me,
Exactly.
never played Zupee boss. I'm not coming from the target segment, right? What's your insight there? How do you look that? Because premiumization की growing field है जो आपने वो करी, लेकिन the business is completely different. So how do you see that?
See, again, it's यार मतलब वो depends ना कि किस audience में क्या काम करता है. So let's say even let's say a game, like if it's not like tier 1 janta or top 0.1% won't play games. The kind of games will be different. So like poker is played massively between IIT IM crowds.
बहुत सारे यूनिकॉर्न फाउंडर्स खेलते हैं.
Exactly, right? And अब वो उसके पीछे भी समझना बनता है कि क्यों पोकर वहाँ खेला जाता है.
क्यों खेला जाता है?
See, in anything, something originated with West has higher status associated with it. So
Same like golf also.
हाँ, of course. So poker originated in the West. Harvard, Stanford के professors ने बहुत books लिखी हैं. Hollywood movies में इसे बहुत glamorize किया गया है. So and it has entered India through lot of IT IM kids who went to do internship. वहाँ से वो games ले गए, Catan, etc. So I think it goes back to that understanding कि it's not like कि game काम नहीं करेगा. It's the choice of game changes when you target a tier 1 versus a tier 2, tier 3.
Also, do you have any understanding of the difference between motivation of someone who has high disposable income versus motivation of someone who have low disposable income?
Think of a framework. हमें real time derive करना हो. हम क्या करेंगे? हम will just look at the spending habits. वहाँ से clearly दिख जाएगा. तो disposable income वाले लोग किस तरह की चीज़ों को spend कर रहे हैं, किस तरह की चीज़ें consume कर रहे हैं. जैसे higher income में you will see they are the highest spenders on art, right? And अब मतलब art by itself is a very interesting topic, right? It has no functional benefits. So, but it's one of the biggest thing is signal status, right? Ki my choice or my taste is so good that you are not able to even decipher.
Understand.
Exactly. So I think it goes back to that, right? Ki उनका peer set क्या है? See, envy is always hyperlocal. Competition बहुत hyperlocal होता है. Like
आपके आसपास लोगों को इंस्टीट्यूशन से एनवी होगी.
so you have to stand out. अब उस स्टेज पे आके आप stand out कैसे करते हो?
बट ये आर्ट का एक फंक्शनल यूज भी होता है. कुछ लोग इसको एज अ टैक्स बचाने के चक्कर में, सो फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर माय फ्रेंड, मैंने कोई 5 करोड़ में आर्ट खरीदी, मैं आपको 10 करोड़ में.
ठीक है, that's a like it's like any product has 1,000 use cases, but I was talking more of a main use case.
If you were to stretch yourself and build another company, what that company would be?
I think again something around companionship for sure.
इंडिया में मार्केट लगता है आपको उसका?
DAO definitely है. On terms of monetization, I have some doubts right now, but I won't say I'm absolutely bearish on this.
Got it. One thing that you know about Bikaner that many people don't know.
I don't think I would know something that only I know.
If you were to be sure of one prediction about the future, 1 or 2 prediction, what that could be?
I think most predictions will be wrong. That will be my prediction.
Do you think it's a very important ability or it's a very important skill for an entrepreneur to have to predict future?
Definitely helps. Here again, I think predicting future is an outcome. Having a strong understanding of history, having a strong understanding of causality of various things, that's an outcome.
They say कि causation is not, you know,
Ulta, correlation is not
correlation is not causation.
It's not.
So anything, it's not true. Because anything जो हुआ है history में, that's biased. If you've trained your brain on history, that's biased.
But that's the thing, na? You have to think probabilistically. You have to assign probability to things. That, hey, these are 10 scenarios which are informed by past data and what is happening right now. You are predicting, you have to assign probabilities. No one is saying that you are able to predict with absolute certainty. So probabilistically, out of 100 options, you can still reduce it to 5-10 options and उनका relative grading हो सकता है.
What's the probabilistic prediction about future? कि इस चीज की होने की probability high है.
I think we will be more of cyborgs. I feel that whatever, I don't think current form factor of Neuralink will cut it. It's very invasive and very risky. But our cognition, etc., will be multiplied by far.
This directs me to my next question. यही मैं पूछने वाला था. Do you think there could be a digital twin of yourself, a decision system where you have fed it all your emails, all your decision making processes,
ये तो
frameworks.
100%
to an
sure है.
AI.
A lot of companies are working on that.
कौन कंपनी कर रही है काम इस पे?
I think Delphi कर रही है एक. A lot of interesting companies. I don't remember the names, but
इंडिया में है क्या?
I don't know. I at least I know a bunch of US companies who are doing it. So ये तो 100% हो रहा है. ये तो तू आज भी कर सकता है कि LLM को custom train करके. So this is very doable.
Tell me one item in your bucket list, boss.
I don't know. I don't think I have things on my bucket list.
Perfect. One product or a service that you really, really want, but you're not finding the solution.
That's a good question. I think a digital twin to myself. I would love to have conversation with myself.
कैसे करोगे?
I think again having a custom trained model which has all the context about myself.
Let's say मैं वो context बनाता हूँ, वो model बनाता हूँ. उसके लिए मुझे क्या-क्या data का आप access दोगे?
I'll give everything.
तो easy है ना?
हाँ, but I don't have it today. I would love to have it.
I'll train all your podcasts, all your emails. What else can we train that on?
I think it.
What all digital footprints you have?
Of course, you can feed the entire digital footprint, but I think it will be a ever-evolving thing because we ourselves change. So it will be more of conversations. I think the best tool for training and customizing it will be having conversations with itself.
And can we also train it on all the books that you have read?
Sure.
Business problem or a problem in your personal life that you're facing, and give me a specific problem statement which you're trying to solve but not able to try to. If somebody solves that problem statement of your life or with the business at this point of time, you'll pay him or her to solve that problem.
Ability to control my mind more.
One of the biggest decisions in life is also, who to marry. How are you approaching that problem?
So there are a lot of ways, but I think इसका Warren Buffett का line था, before finding a worthy mate, become worthy of a worthy mate. So it's a single player game. The more work you do on yourself, better people you attract in your life. And it sounds very wishy-washy, but I think it works that way.
One gaming company that aspires you. Don't name Tencent and don't name Zupee.
Tencent, for sure.
What aspires you about Tencent?
The giant they have built, size of ambition and execution. So one is having ambition, second is actually delivering it, which is quite amazing.
If you were to interview Harish sir, what is one thing that you would ask him?
I think one of the very unique things about him will be he's super brilliant, super intelligent, super ambitious, but still deep sense of humility and deeply service minded. Like, how does all of it come together?
Any specific, I'll ask this, but any specific question that you have? Any other specific question that you have for Harish sir? If you were to interview, क्या ये तो मैं पूछता ही सर से?
I think, again, it's very, very rare combination of IQ and EQ. That itself is something that everyone should study.
IQ fundamental level पे शायद आपके पास होता है. Do you believe that you can change your IQ? EQ, I think you can.
I think, again, it depends how we define IQ. Intelligence is defined as ability to make models. Smartness is about choosing. Smartness is the ability to solve problem. Wisdom is about choosing which problems to even work on in the first place. So wisdom is way more important than intelligence, I feel.
And if you were to interview Kunal, what is something that you would ask him apart from reading his Twitter tweets?
How does he stay motivated? I'll say. There is this big thought experiment. Can you really design a super intelligent system which at its core is not stupid or is still motivated to do something? The reason behind that is if you build a really super intelligent system, the first thing it's going to do is hack its objective function. So can you really build a system which is at its core really intelligent and still motivated to do something? The reason I said this question for Kunal is because he sees through most of things. So if you're able to see through everything,
how are you still motivated?
That's the question.
Because you know you're an intelligent person, you'll crack anything.
Still not that. You see through the meaninglessness of bunch of things. That way.
What's the most meaningless thing that you find in your life right now?
Everything is meaningless. That's the real answer.
What's the objective then?
I think it's everyone. There's no one meta universal objective for everyone.
Of course, yes. It's individualistic, made.
It's like किसी ने बोला था ना, meaning is a sweater that you knit for yourself.
And sweater changes a lot. You have to change a lot of sweaters.
Yeah. So it's a very personal answer for everyone.
How are you finding meaning in the meaningfulness universe?
I think understanding human mind, decoding it, gives me a lot of meaning, and I think the more I do, maybe I'll get an answer to the meaning question also.
Thanks a ton for doing this.